Welcome to another deep dive. Today, we're going back to 1999.
Oh, yeah.
It was the year Eminem blew up with My Name Is and the Slim Shady LP.
Huge year for music.
We've got the Wikipedia pages for both.
Nice.
So we're going to break it all down and see how a struggling Detroit rapper became a global icon.
You know what's crazy? This album almost didn't happen.
Really?
Yeah, before Slim Shady, there was just Marshall Mathers.
Right.
He was rapping at 14. He even put out an independent album called Infinite back in '96.
But that didn't exactly take off, did it?
It flopped, pretty much.
Wow.
Detroit radio ignored it. Plus, he was getting a lot of hate for being a white rapper.
I can imagine.
Yeah, all that rejection fueled the anger that we hear in his music.
Right. It makes you think about how that early experience shaped him.
Yeah.
You know, as a person and as an artist.
It's huge.
Yeah.
I mean, think about it. You pour your heart into this album. Yeah. Crickets. It can break you or it can light a fire.
And with Eminem, it kind of did both.
Exactly.
Because around this time, he's also dealing with some serious stuff.
Oh, yeah?
Even attempts suicide. And that's when Slim Shady is born.
Right. Slim Shady was his outlet for all that rage and frustration.
Mm-hmm.
He could channel it into something creative.
Even if it was dark and controversial.
Definitely. And that darkness led to the Slim Shady EP in '97.
What was it about that EP that caught the attention of Interscope? You know, at the Rap Olympics.
It was raw, man. Totally unfiltered. He wasn't holding anything back.
Mm-hmm.
He almost won the Rap Olympics that year, came in second.
Right?
And that's where Jimmy Iovine, the CEO of Interscope, heard the EP.
Ah.
He saw the potential.
And he passed it on to Dr. Dre, who wasn't exactly known for working with white rappers at the time.
Definitely not. There was a lot of pushback.
Yeah.
It was seen as a risky move.
Yeah, but Dre saw something special in Eminem.
He did, and decided to go for it.
That must have been surreal for Eminem, you know? Yeah. A lifelong Dr. Dre fan suddenly in the studio with his idol.
Can you imagine you're in the studio with someone you've admired for years,
right,
and you have one shot to prove yourself?
It's got to be intimidating.
No doubt. But according to Wikipedia, they clicked instantly.
That's awesome.
Yeah, they'd start with Dre's beats, and Eminem would just freestyle over them.
Wow.
It's amazing they found that synergy so quickly.
That is amazing.
And get this, My Name Is was finished in an hour on their first day.
No way.
Yeah.
You rarely hear about that kind of instant connection. But let's talk about the sound of the Slim Shady LP. How did Dre's production contribute to the overall feel?
Well, for those who don't know, G-Funk is all about smooth synths, deep bass lines,
right,
and often using funk samples. Dre was a pioneer of that sound.
Of course, with NWA and Snoop.
Exactly.
Yep.
And his production on the Slim Shady LP gave Eminem's lyrics this polished, catchy backdrop.
It's like he created this sonic playground for Eminem's lyrical mayhem.
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
But the Slim Shady LP wasn't all fun and games. It had a lot of controversial content. A lot of it from the Slim Shady persona.
Right, and this is where things get interesting. There's dark humor, violence, profanity.
All delivered through the Slim Shady character.
Yeah. And Eminem always said it was meant to be like a horror film.
Right. Meant to entertain, not be taken literally. It was all part of the act.
Of course. Not everyone saw it that way.
Definitely not.
There were also accusations of misogyny in his lyrics.
Right, which he addressed by saying he has a difficult relationship with women sometimes. But that he was also satirizing rapper tropes.
It's a complex argument. He was pushing boundaries and challenging norms.
For sure.
But you can't dismiss the impact of those words either.
Nope. It's a tough one. And it's interesting because even with all the explicit content, Eminem chose not to use the N-word.
That's right. He said it wasn't part of his vocabulary.
Yeah, that decision says a lot about his awareness and the lines he was willing to cross.
Or not cross.
Right, it shows a conscious effort to navigate a sensitive issue, even while pushing the envelope in other ways.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Speaking of pushing boundaries, the My Name Is music video was wild.
Oh, man. It was pure visual chaos.
It was directed by Dr. Dre and Philip Atwell, and it was basically a nonstop parody of TV shows and pop culture. What were your thoughts when you first saw it?
It was hilarious. Eminem was impersonating everyone. Bill Clinton,
yeah,
Johnny Carson,
really,
Marilyn Manson, a porn star, you name it.
Wow.
And don't forget the cameo by Gorge Moran.
The basketball player.
Yeah, he's a ventriloquist with Eminem as the dummy.
I've seen that video a million times, and I never noticed that.
It's easy to miss with all the other craziness.
Yeah.
It's brilliant how he used humor to poke fun at celebrity culture.
And, of course, Dr. Dre makes an appearance as a therapist.
of course, adds to the absurdity.
It perfectly captures the spirit of the album, playful, provocative,
Yeah,
unapologetically in your face, just like the song itself. Now, My Name Is was his first major hit.
right. Number 36 on the Billboard Hot 100.
And it heavily samples a track by Lobby Cipher called I Got Though.
Such a great sample.
But the story behind getting it cleared is even more
I
fascinating.
love this story. Labi Siffre is openly gay,
Hmm.
and he wasn't comfortable with some of the lyrics. Yeah, some of the homophobic and sexist stuff. To get his approval, they had to make changes.
It's amazing to think that a song so over the top went through that process.
It really does. It highlights the complexities of art and how ethical considerations can shape even the most provocative works.
And it's funny how the uncensored version ended up on the Source Hip Hop Music Awards 1999 compilation.
By mistake.
Wow. Talk about a collector's item.
Totally. It's a reminder that things can slip through the cracks.
Especially in the fast-paced world of music.
Absolutely. It's a little piece of hip-hop history frozen in time. Speaking of things slipping through the cracks, the album's success brought more than just fame and fortune.
Right.
There was a legal battle brewing,
Oh, yeah.
and it came from Eminem's own mother.
You're talking about the lawsuit she filed over that line in My Name Is.
Yeah, the one about her using drugs.
What made her decide to sue her own son?
It was a big deal at the time. Debbie Mathers claimed those lyrics were slanderous, damaging to her reputation. But their relationship was always complicated.
Yeah. Even before he was famous.
Exactly.
It makes you think about how personal his music is.
For sure.
He poured so much of his life into those lyrics.
It's hard to separate the art from the artist in this case.
I agree. The line between reality and fiction was blurred.
Yeah. And that's part of what made it so powerful.
It felt authentic, even if it was exaggerated.
Right. And that blurring of lines also led to another legal battle.
Oh, yeah, D'Angelo Bailey,
The former school janitor.
who claimed to be the bully from brain damage.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He sued Eminem for $1 million,
Wow.
saying the song was profiting off his pain.
And forcing him to relive a traumatic experience.
Right. It raised questions about where artistic expression ends.
And real-life consequences began.
Exactly. What I find fascinating about that case
Besides the whole bully suing a rapper thing,
is the judge's ruling.
didn't she dismiss the case and
Yeah.
write her decision in rap verse?
She did. Judge Deborah Servito's ruling is legendary.
I love that story.
She basically said Eminem's lyrics were so over the top that no reasonable person would take them literally.
Pure satire.
Exactly. A comedic take on a serious topic.
It's like she understood the absurdity of the situation.
She did. And used her own creativity to make a point.
It's a perfect example of how Eminem's music forced people to confront these boundaries.
The boundaries of art and reality.
Exactly. But beyond the lawsuits and controversies,
Yeah.
what about the musical innovations of the Slim Shady LP? How did it push the boundaries of hip-hop?
Eminem's lyrical skills were next level. Complex rhyme schemes, rapid-fire delivery, clever wordplay.
Like My Name Is?
Exactly.
Yeah.
He packs so much into each verse.
It's like a lyrical puzzle box.
And what about the themes he explored?
So different from what was popular at the time.
Right, gangster rap was still dominant. But Eminem tapped into a different kind of angst. He spoke to the frustrations of young white America.
Those who felt overlooked and misunderstood.
Exactly. A perspective rarely heard in mainstream hip-hop.
And it resonated with a huge audience.
It did. We have to remember the cultural landscape of the late 90s.
Right. The internet was exploding, the economy was booming,
But there was this underlying anxiety,
an uncertainty about the future.
and Eminem's music gave voice to those anxieties.
With its raw aggression and dark humor,
He wasn't afraid to address taboo subjects
challenged societal norms.
and push the boundaries of what was acceptable,
He created a space for anger, frustration, even vulnerability.
which was so different from the hyper-masculine posturing of a lot of hip-hop.
So we've got this groundbreaking album,
Massive success.
lawsuits, family drama. It's a lot to unpack.
It is. What would you say is the most enduring legacy of the Slim Shady LP?
That's a tough one.
It's a complex legacy. The album was a cultural phenomenon,
It redefined hip-hop
brought a raw and unapologetic voice to the mainstream.
and paved the way for other artists to explore darker themes
But it also sparked a lot of debate,
about artistic responsibility, free speech, the impact of violent lyrics.
a conversation that continues to this day.
Eminem always said his lyrics weren't meant to be taken literally.
Right, it was all part of the Slim Shady persona,
A form of entertainment.
not a call to action.
But did he ever acknowledge the potential impact his music could have?
On his audience, especially young fans.
Yeah.
He did address it later in his career, acknowledging that his earlier work might have been misinterpreted.
Taken out of context.
He seemed to grapple with the responsibility of his influence,
It's almost like he was wrestling with his own demons in public.
using his music to work through personal struggle.
And societal pressures.
Yeah.
And we got a front row seat to that process.
Yeah. It's fascinating to see how the Slim Shady LP kind of started these bigger conversations.
About art, censorship, the role of the artist.
Right. It challenged people to look at their own biases.
To really grapple with free speech.
Like, can you separate the artist from the art? Where do we draw the line?
Between entertainment and harmful content.
Huge questions that went way beyond music.
And it's amazing that those questions are still being debated.
More than 20 years later.
Eminem tapped into something raw.
He did.
Love him or hate him, you couldn't ignore him.
And we can't forget about MTV.
True.
The My Name Is video was everywhere.
It was.
It introduced Eminem to a massive audience.
At a time when music videos could still shock people.
This one definitely did.
I remember seeing it for the first time
Oh, yeah.
and being blown away. It was so different from everything else on MTV.
It was like a cultural shift.
It felt that way.
It's interesting how the visual element, the music video, amplified everything.
It wasn't just the music anymore.
It was the image, the persona.
The whole package, right?
Eminem created this larger-than-life character.
This caricature of white suburban angst.
But behind the mask, there was always this vulnerability.
It like maybe Slim Shady wasn't so different from Marshall Mathers.
That's what makes him so compelling.
This jester and king, provocateur and poet.
There's a complexity to his work that keeps us coming back.
Before we wrap up, I want to go back to something you said about Eminem grappling with responsibility.
Do you think the Slim Shady LP's success and the controversy forced him to confront those darker sides? You know, in his later work?
That's the million-dollar question.
It is.
Critics and fans have debated it for years.
It's hard to say, for sure.
But you can see an evolution in his music.
Definitely.
There's more self-awareness in his later albums,
More introspection.
which you don't really see in his early stuff.
It's like he had to go through that wild phase
Pushing boundaries, testing limits.
to get to a place of maturity.
It's a journey a lot of artists go through.
But few have done it so publicly.
As dramatically as Eminem, he put it all out there
His struggles, insecurities, triumphs.
for the whole world to see.
And in doing so, he created this body of work.
That's both personal and universal,
He gave voice to a generation.
and his music still resonates today,
It reminds us that even the most controversial art can have an impact,
starting conversations, challenging norms.
helping us understand ourselves and the world.
Absolutely.
So there you have it, a deep dive into the origins of Eminem, the birth of Slim Shady,
And the impact of the Slim Shady LP,
an album that continues to challenge and inspire,
proving that great art often comes from conflict and struggle.
a willingness to break the rules.
And maybe most importantly, it shows us that even the most outrageous characters
Can have hidden depths,
and that the most powerful stories
or the ones that make us uncomfortable.
make us question and make us want to dig a little deeper.